That's what I strive for. Don't worry about tomorrow, cause today full of chick. First them no come.
A very good afternoon to those who are tuned in. This is Mata Matarinda Shumba on Radio 54 African Panorama, creating the Africa we want. As we're waiting for our guests, like I said earlier, we're still going to be waiting for our guests for a few minutes. It's coming through Comrade Marshall Gore, who is a UK diaspora a community leader who is doing quite a lot in diaspora for us to tackle. Our topic for the day as we unpack the role of diaspora in the development of Africa, the role of diaspora in the development of Africa. And as we wait for him to come through, I would like to play this video. Like I was saying earlier, Advocate Simba Chitando have been like, the battlefield, took the case to High Court to represent 250,000 Zimbabweans in South Africa for them to get their permanent residence permit. So I'm just going to show a video of his life on ETV before we can move to our next.
These applicants are seeking relief from the High Court to declare, well, to renew their permits, which we are arguing should be permanent residence permits, and they would like to have their status declared unconditional permanent residence in the country, and obviously also to to get IDs and all the necessary documentation that comes with permanent residency in the country, so they can live ordinary lives equal to all other people in this country with residency in the country.
Yeah. What are you founding this application on? On what basis are you making this?
The Immigration Act. The Immigration Act, the Identification Act.
And what?
And the Constitution, obviously, which is the bedrock of all those other laws.
Without a question. But I guess what I'm asking is, what is the basis of that claim, that rather than be discussing renewal, non-renewal of the Zimbabwe special dispensation permits, we should be talking permanent residence in this instance? Is it because of the length of time that they've been in the country, or such other factors?
Absolutely, that's a very good point. You see, well, first of all, there's the provision in the Immigration Act which provides for various rights, including permanent residency. And we are arguing that these are people that have been in the country for more than 10 years. These are the most productive years of these individuals' lives. It would be with renewals, which you expect, I think most people expect a renewal after December, because we've heard nothing to suggest to the contrary. But what we do know is that it will be 15, probably even 20 years of the most productive years of a human being's life, where they should be building their financial futures, looking after their children, and they're now, in a second-class citizen category, denied financial services that they could get or should be getting if they're permanent residents in the country.
Okay, that was Advocate Simba Chitanto, who is actually, taking this whole case, taking this whole case to High Court, and he's been fighting this fight for quite some time. And I highlighted other stuff that he has actually done in the past, and he is using the Constitution of South Africa to fight this and the immigration laws. And so I can safely say, this is something that is worth following. To all the law graduates out there, this is something that you need to follow. And I do have some young people, South Africans, who are studying law. this is something you need to follow without emotions, by the way, without thinking, no, since there's this battle between South Africans and foreigners, so they should be I should take this as a South African and so forth. Look at the law side of things and follow on his argument. I actually love his argument, his basis and stuff like that. It's something that is really well researched. It's not coming from just being a Zimbabwean or just being an activist. This is an intellectual who is taking this to the next level. Stay tuned with Matarinda Shumba on Radio 54 African Panorama as we look into the role of diaspora in the development of Africa. And this is one of our diaspora who is actually doing something to stand up and, in the development of Africa, everything that is happening, the court case and so forth. I'm trying to load a video of a response from a South African lady and a rights group activist who is saying no to this, who is saying no to this, like it can't be done. How can they come here? And it's quite a long debate. And I just want to welcome King Ajamu, who is listening from Orlando, Florida, United States. The diaspora is listening, and to Tabita, thanks. But you breaking? Breaking? Am I breaking? Okay, thank you, but I hope they will come through for us. King Ajamu saying human rights violations cannot be ignored. And that's right, human rights violations cannot be ignored, and you should also know your rights wherever you are. So there is a response from a South African lady who is actually representing some rights groups. Just look at this.
Good evening, South Africans. I'm not sure if most of you are aware, but Zimbabweans were in court today. Funny how they have powers to fight for citizenship for our country using our courts. Something they can never do in their country. And let me remind you that this is the same nation that collapsed their own economy unprovoked. And today, we are expected to share the little that we have, and we are paying a heavy price for something that we were never a part of. We have a case with Home Affairs, and come Monday, the 25th of the 10th, 2021, we will be filing papers to oppose this motion. We want to make it clear to the world that the future of the Republic is without the influx of immigrants. It is every nation's duty and responsibility to face their governments, fix their problems, and stop running to other countries only to be a burden and exhaust the resources of those countries. The foreign nationals that do not pay tax, that run businesses in our country and they don't pay tax or employ citizens of this country, will be deported. Foreign nationals that are doing jobs that South Africans can do, especially in the formal and informal sector, will also be deported. They will not be spared. We have an immigration crisis, and we are going to use a legal, radical approach and tone to resolve this problem. We are not going to go soft on the wound. We are not going to nurse anyone's feelings either. We will enforce immigration laws without fear or favor. Potential investors, tourists, foreign students that would like to study in our country and will only leave after completion of their studies, they are more than welcome to come to our country. Foreign nationals must learn that it is not wise to farm in a foreign land. They must love their countries enough to fix them. And also, they must learn.
Okay, that's I didn't get her name, but this video is actually circulating. Before we got that, I managed to take some notes on what she was saying, and for starters, I know that she was reading from somewhere, so it's obviously not it's not really coming from the heart. Whoever drafted what she was reading, okay, good. She's making valid points, but they are not well-researched points. Number one, I'll start with what she said about they are running businesses and do not pay tax. Every registered business in South Africa, the moment you go and register on CIPC, I register companies, by the way. Like, that's part of my work. That's how I earn my income, registering companies. When you go to the port, CIPC, where you register companies in South Africa, automatically when you register a company, it connects it to SARS, the South African Revenue Services. It connects that, and you get a tax number. You need to have a tax clearance before you even go and open a bank account. Or you are getting and it's coming through to your account. So in terms of paying tax, every business pays tax. So let's look at other businesses like the informal traders. We are talking about the tuck shops. These are the numbers that came from Africa Diaspora Forum, right? Like, out of the 100,000 spaza shops in South Africa, okay, they pay each about 65,000 rand per year. So calculating that times 100 spaza shops, that's about 6.5 billion going into into South African economy, coming from that. And these are foreigners I am talking about, the so-called foreigners who are not paying tax. So other than that tax that you are paying, there is income tax. Employers, when they employ you, you need to have a tax number. Even when you are an asylum holder, SARS allows you to have a tax number. Even when you just have a passport and do not have a passport and you don't have a permit, you are actually allowed to have a tax number. You go and register. They've made that clear. And those foreigners who are within South Africa and are actually buying every day, you buy a cell phone, you pay VAT, you buy this, you do not really benefit directly from that. So I'm just giving you a background of how foreigners within South Africa pay tax. Okay. So that's a background. We're gonna bring Advocate Chitando at a later stage. I'll try and speak to him probably next week so that we can come and have this discussion. And I also would love to have a South African group, anybody from the South African side, to come, and so that we can talk about this. As long as we don't talk about this, we don't discuss this, there's always be like, okay, she's talking from a xenophobic point of view, or he's talking from being a foreigner. So we want to have a balanced debate here. Anyway, I'm gonna before we turn to Comrade Marshall Gore, who is already here, I would love to read some comments from here, from Tabita. Tabita, we're saying, South African lady, I've just ignorant. She isn't looking at things from a brighter side, whereby the Zimbabwean people are playing a huge role in South Africa. Some bring employment opportunities to citizens. She's forgetting Zimbabwe isn't the only foreign country that had businesses or jobs. Other countries also do. She must just learn how to. Okay, the other part I'm not gonna read. It's just something else. I'm just gonna post it. And Philip Swanda was saying, naked truth, we fail to run countries with the resources that we have. I think that's a debate for another day, because we have people from the UK, we have people from the US who is in South Africa. Are they also failing to run their countries with the resources they have? a migration crisis not only centered about on the Zimbabwean politics. I appreciate the comment, I appreciate the school of thought bringing about, but I'm just saying here, it's not only centered around the Zimbabweans. We have Indians who are here, we have Chinese who are here, and they did not fail their countries. Migration is it's just something that happens all over the world. Tabitha, I can attest to that about registering company. She didn't do any research. She isn't well informed. That's right. Then King Ajam is like, must pay tax in order to conduct business in Africa, even from the US. That's right. From Philip, we saying, can I ask a question, Matarenda? Can asylum is someone who is not given indefinite leave? Once you are given indefinite, you no longer an asylum. Okay. Within South Africa, we do have asylum holders within South Africa. How they've set up is different from how it's set up in other countries. Rather than to give them money, they allow them to work and study within South Africa. So they do contribute to tax. They do contribute through work, because they are allowed to work in South Africa. So they pay tax. Okay, before we can carry on with that, welcome Comrade Marshall Gore to Radio 54 African Panorama as we create the Africa we want, the role of diaspora in the development of Africa. Welcome.
Welcome, Martha. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be on this show.
All right. Okay. That's great. He's a diaspora community leader, and he has done quite a lot. What's your take on what's happening with taking to High Court to represent Zimbabwe in South Africa? What's your take on that?
Yes. Can you hear me clear, Martha?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I want to take this opportunity to appreciate you for inviting me to this show. I know we've been speaking behind the scenes to try and make this happen, and I'm so glad and delighted that it has finally happened. And I want to take this opportunity to greet all the diasporas that are tuning in to the show, and all the people that are back at home, that it's good to engage, and may the good work that you're doing in the different parts of the world that you are, may it continue. And I also want to thank my diaspora colleagues, firstly, in the UK, the different diaspora organizations that we work with that have contributed immensely to the development at home, contributed through business, contributed through charity and philanthropy. Last year, we saw a resounding unity in the diaspora coming in to support our country, Zimbabwe, in the midst of the pandemic. That was also shown during the Cyclone Idai as well. We saw quite a lot of resounding support of Zimbabweans from all corners of the world coming in to support their country. So I'm so grateful as a diasporan as well to say the spirit and determination of the diaspora to support our countries back at home has been amazing. And also, most importantly, I also want to thank our government for the re-engagement and the engagement agenda which they put forward in 2018, which has now seen a lot more involvement of the diaspora as key stakeholders in the national strategy development, especially in Zimbabwe. And also the diaspora part and parcel of Vision 2030. Now we've seen a lot of people, initiative being driven towards supporting the national objectives. And it's important, Martha, to realize that we are all Zimbabweans after all. And I know we have a life in our host country, but we must never be too comfortable to forget that the home country is where our umbilical cord is attached to. So to this, I'm so humbled to say that as a diaspora community leader here in the UK, the resounding support of the diaspora in supporting development initiatives at home has been very great, and we will continue to work with government and continue to work with other organizations that also have interest in supporting us as diasporans to develop back home. So that's my starting point. Hi, Martha, are you there? And also, I think most importantly, Martha, I'd like to also highlight the fact that there's a significant approach that we need to adopt as diasporans in supporting developments back at home. I think most importantly, we have the remittances that we send back at home, which are also important from a social and economic point of view, from a domestic point of view, with our families. I think that is also very clearly quite important to see that when we support the welfare of our families home, we are also contributing to the development of our countries. I think the remittances, as it dates up to now in Zimbabwe, range to almost 1.4 to 1.6 billion every year to capital being inputted into the country from the diaspora. That is actually very huge. I know obviously other countries like Nigeria have huge influx in Ghana of diaspora funds that come from abroad to the home country. So it's strongly recommended that we continue to work on supporting development initiatives at home. Supporting development initiatives at home will also include us as the diaspora playing a key role as investment enablers in our different countries. I think as Zimbabweans here in the UK, we have a key role to play in attracting investment back home, to support our government, to unlocking the necessary investment that is required in to kickstart our economy, investment in infrastructure. It's our duty as the diasporans here to use the capacity and our positions that we have in the different sectors of the economy where we work to leverage and promote investment to go into our countries. We've seen this being done very well here in the UK, where several diaspora organizations have hosted investment conferences that focused primarily on harnessing investment for the home country, and that has been very successful.
Okay, welcome me back, okay?
Welcome back, Martha.
Okay, so sorry about that. Something just went ballistic. You know, internet can just be something else. Somebody don't want me on air, don't want me to talk about this. Anyway, thank you so much, Comrade Marshall Gore, and thank you so much for being here as one of our guests. And I know most people are familiar with you. We've been with you here, and you know, we appreciate the role that you are playing. So I want to speak about something here. I think a UN convoy in Zimbabwe to probe the issue of sanctions within the country. What can you say about that? Because I saw different responses, and people are saying, no, it's actually justified. I know I'm referring this to you because you are part of the diaspora that's been fighting this fight and your role that you have played. So what are things looking good? Is this the positive that you've been fighting for?
Yes, Martha, it's a positive thing that we have had the UK to actually go into Zimbabwe to do an impact analysis or an impact assessment of the damages that the sanctions have caused in Zimbabwe. Let me say this, that the sanctions on Zimbabwe are criminal and illegal and a violation of international law under the UN Charter, and also a violation of human rights. So this needs to be put very clearly out there that the sanctions are not sanctioned by the UN, and the sanctions were criminal. Why do I say the sanctions were criminal? The sanctions are criminal because when the sanctions were imposed, there was never due process to allow those that put a case for sanctions to make the people that they are putting on sanctions. And under international law, there has to be a debate, and you have for you to validate that the sanctions are legal, you have to give people the right to respond to the allegations of the anomalies that they were citing, especially under CDE. But that never happened. It was just a US attempt with its allies to unilaterally declare sanctions on Zimbabwe without following due process. This is why the UN from the beginning had always denounced the sanctions. But I think what is important now is that the UN has made an attempt now to actually come and assess the impact of sanctions. So this is actually great victory for us, because if you remember quite well, we have been fighting alone until when SADC came, I think it was in 2019, to actually join, the 16 member SADC countries came to join hands with Zimbabwe to say, you know what, we're joining hands with Zimbabwe now on the 25th of October to call upon the removal of the repressive and illegal sanctions on Zimbabwe. So this was a great initiative, because, and the same cause now were also heeded by President Cyril Ramaphosa when he was the chair of the AU. He put a case again, which all the AU countries, most of the AU countries, unilaterally agreed again for the sanctions to be removed. So what you have seen now is from a more local initiative to push for the removal of sanctions, which then translated into the regional initiative for the call of removal of sanctions, which then culminated into an African all unified voice to speak against sanctions. And this is what now has provoked the UN to actually make an attempt to actually come and do an impact assessment of the damage of the sanctions. So it's actually a victory for us, a victory for all the people that have unified in working hard, in highlighting the unjustifiable sanctions that were imposed on our country through CDE and through America and its allies. So I want to say, for us, it's breath of fresh air for our government to be able to sit down with an envoy from the UN and actually shed more light on the impact and the damages the sanctions have caused to our economy. If you recall quite well, I think 2 years ago, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade did an local impact assessment, which they actually found out that the sanctions since 2002 had costed the country almost close to 80 billion losses in terms of revenue and income from bilateral and multilateral trade initiatives. Private sector had lost investment, connections, there's a lot that we lost. The ease of doing business internationally was affected by sanctions. The deterioration of our infrastructure as we speak right now is as a result of us as government and our private sector not being able to access credit lines from abroad to develop their businesses, to develop the infrastructure in our country, because as a country, we've been blacklisted as a result of sanctions. We are not credit worthy in international business. No company wants to insure a credit line that goes to Zimbabwe because of the word sanctions. That S word is a curse to any government. It's a curse to any economy. And I think unequivocally as Zimbabweans, we should fight for the sanctions to be removed so that we can operate freely within the business world. So I will say again, the presence of the UN in Zimbabwe is a huge success to all the Zimbabweans who have frantically been calling for the removal of sanctions, our government included. And I hope that their report following this will come out and summarize the consequences that sanctions has hampered on the ordinary citizens in Zimbabwe.
Okay, thank you so much for that, and I think this is also part of what the diaspora is doing to get the word out there, because I think Zimbabwe has been sanctioned for like 21 years now, and there haven't been a huge fight that involved SADC, Africa Union, as well as the diaspora community within the past years. I think it's all started like 2 years ago, where Zimbabwean diaspora started educating themselves on the impact and what role they can play. But this is an issue that is debatable, by the way, because it always goes back to the political side of things, others saying they should stay. For me, I don't look at things at the political side of things, but as an African, I always feel like it's something that is more abusive to our people. So I have a question here from Philip Swanda, who is saying, can you educate us on who is on sanctions and why are we on sanctions?
Well,
I think this is something that we have. Answered like for the 100th time ever since. It's a question that people always ask: who is on sanctions and why are we sanctioned? I think you can just summarize on that so that people who are tuned in can also listen. And by the way, just to make a disclaimer, the show is not really centered around the sanctions on Zimbabwe, but the role of diaspora in the development of Africa. Okay, you can proceed.
Thank you, Martha. Yeah, I think it's important to highlight that we have sanctions that were imposed via ZDERA, and at that time, the US was working with its allies, the European Union, and to a large extent also the UK government were part and parcel of it. I know quite lately there was a review of ZDERA, and some restrictions were removed, but not entirely. For me, even the issue of saying that they are targeted, sanctions are targeted on a few people like ZDF and companies that are owned by government or certain individuals, I actually think that that's a proxy actually to try and underplay. Once you declare sanctions on a country, it doesn't matter whether it's once you declare sanctions on a government, it affects the whole country. So for me, to try and define and water them down and say, oh, they're specifically targeted for a few political individuals, it doesn't matter. The impact on sanctions on Zimbabwe is that it's affecting the ease of doing business of our government. It's affecting companies and banks in Zimbabwe to access credit lines from above. As you know, in economy, there are three essential things that you need to develop. You need capital, which is one and most important. You need labor, which is the people, the resources and the skills. And then you need productivity. So if you look of the case of Zimbabwe, we have labor. We have a very skilled labor force, very skilled, educated population we have, which is competing even at global level. We have, are we productive? I believe we are productive if we are given the right resources. What has affected our productivity is our lack of infrastructure from an industrial point of view. And this is where now sanctions play a part, because the sanctions limited access to capital in international markets, which when we were put on sanctions, we lost most of our credit lines. We lost a lot of development finance that we were getting for our education. We lost a lot of development finance that we were accessing to develop our health infrastructure. We lost a lot of development finance that we were accessing to develop our industries. So when that happened, it then affected our productivity as a country. This is why if you look at our industrial infrastructure in the last 20 years, nothing much had happened. This is as a result of the sanctions. How? Because lack of credit lines. As a country, we can only progress if we can also borrow from international markets competitively. But when we are on sanctions, we cannot do that. It's a restriction to us. And what then happens is that when this has happened, it doesn't affect politicians. Neither does it affect government officials alone, but it affects every Zimbabwean who relies on government health infrastructure. It affects every Zimbabwean who relies on government schools. It affects every Zimbabwean who relies on the road infrastructure that we need all to thrive and to do things. So in a nutshell, the sanctions have affected us as a whole country, and they've affected the growth of our economy in the last 20 years. And this is why it's important that they have to be removed. To say that the sanctions are only targeting a few minority elite politicians, it's wrong. Zimbabwe is blacklisted. If you talk to people that do international law and international business, they can strictly tell you clearly that you cannot access any credit, any insurance for credit going to Zimbabwe because of the S word, the sanctions word. I myself, I'm in business. We tried to bring some investment to invest in housing infrastructure in Zimbabwe with a company called Armstrong Group of Homes. We wanted to invest in low-cost housing in Zimbabwe. We had done everything, the homework and done everything, but we struggled because the company that was willing to finance the investment said they could not insure the credit because of sanctions. As a result of that, the development we wanted to do in housing infrastructure could not proceed. And this is not about us alone. I think there are many stories. I had Permanent Secretary of Finance, George Guamatanga, in another interview saying clearly as a banker, when he was working with Barclays, how the sanctions made it very difficult for Barclays Bank of Zimbabwe at that time to access investment finance or to even support its international transactions because of the sanctions. And Barclays are not part of the government, and Barclays are not a minister, but here is a private banking entity that has a story to say about how difficult the sanctions are on the country. And I want to say clearly, the sanctions have affected the growth of our economy and ultimately affected the development of our economic and social infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. Comrade Marshall Gore, and apologies once again. I can tell you there is this auntie from my village. She's really against me. Okay, when it comes to the internet, it can just show you flames sometimes. It's one of those things. But stay tuned, and thank you so much for highlighting that, because many people are really not educated enough regarding sanctions. And I'm not just talking about the Zimbabwean sanctions. I'm talking about the sanctions all over. There are some people who've been talking about the sanctions on Syria, on Venezuela, saying they are justified. No sanction is justified. It should never, no country should impose sanctions on any country. They have their own situations. Let us find ways that does not, abuse other or violate other countries. And on that, I know so many people will say it is okay for the US to do that. But here's my thinking. If you allow bullying by another country to come and bully you and impose things, it simply means you, the people of Zimbabwe, you are actually failing to manage your own situations within Zimbabwe. So you want a third party to come forward.
Yes, Martha, you're right. Actually, if I can come in to say, Zimbabwe is a sovereign country, and as a sovereign state, we have right to self-determination, right to self-determination in dealing with our internal affairs. Even though at times we may get things wrong, but that doesn't mean that there's a big brother out there who will come and impose sanctions on us because we have failed to deal with internal matters. Every country has its own internal turmoil. There is lot of racial prejudice in America, a lot of institutional racism, human rights abuse, even in the United States of America, even here in Britain. You see movements protesting against government on illegal human rights and mishandling of the economy and everything else. So these problems do happen. So as a country, it does not mean that we are immune of problems. We have our own challenges. Yeah. But with our challenges, we also have a right under international law of self-determination and dealing with our own problems. It doesn't mean that we always get things right. Sometimes we don't get things right, but the solutions of Zimbabwean problems belong to the Zimbabweans. We can never, as a country, outsource our problems to any other country. So the people that feel that the sanctions are a fair punishment of us, I think they are ill-advised. And I think our problems as Zimbabweans should be solved with us as Zimbabweans. We don't need a third party to come in and put any injunctions on us as a country. That is very much unfair. Can you hear me, Martha?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, are you still with me, Bagore? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. And also, in the light of talking about sanctions and us not being able to get credit lines, I believe that there's been measured put and effort being put back home to actually sustain ourselves. What are other projects that are running right now that have helped Zimbabwe to survive under sanctions? I've seen the Fumbuza is doing very well and stuff like that. I do believe that we cannot just sit and wait for sanctions to be removed for us to move as a country. What are other projects that are running back home that are sustaining our people and us as a country?
Thank you so much, Marcha. I think one thing that the new government has done, which has helped us as a country, is to bring stronger fiscal consolidation. Under President E.D. Mnangagwa's government, there has been renewed leadership and more discipline in government managing its own affairs. And I can stand here to say that I've been very much impressed by the way our government has been able to arrest our economic challenges. Firstly, Martha, our government brought in the Transition Stabilization Program, the TSP. Under the TSP, the priority was obviously austerity for prosperity. We went through a lot of radical economic change transformation to ensure that we align our economy with its true value within the market. That helped to stabilize our economy. How did it help stabilize our economy? We reduced the government borrowing from a day-to-day basis to say government started operating under the TSP. The government started operating within its budget. When I say within its budget, I mean government started using its own internal revenue to ensure that it covers its responsibility. So under the TSP, there was strong fiscal consolidation, good management of government resources and economy, which actually saw parity retaining within the market. For example, our civil servants for the past 2 years have now been paid on time. Government is making profit and realizing actual surplus, which they can use on another shocks that can affect them. The TSP also helped our government to introduce our own new currency within the economy, which I felt was very necessary, especially to support domestic trade, because operating with the US dollar was not going to be practical. So I want to actually say that the huge success in arresting the government deficit, government had borrowed quite a lot, and it was sustaining on a lot of borrowed money. That has gone now, it has been cleared. And thanks to HE for standing strong and making bold decisions at a time sometimes when people were feeling that some of the decisions are taking us back. But sometimes I'm glad that in 2018, we took two steps backwards, but now we have taken 10 steps forward. Our economy is stable. We are developing a lot of our road infrastructure using local resources. Revenue from taxation is improved. Our government is collecting almost 80 to 90% of its tax revenue from companies, which has improved. And also, there's more strong accountability within all the ministries in operating within a budget. And this has helped us to realize savings, which has then been implemented in the construction of roads, the Bite Bridge Chirundu Highway, which is currently being constructed, the funding of DDF, the rural road upgrades, recovery road upgrades that is happening. We have a lot of infrastructure development in terms of developing our water infrastructure, the dams, for example, the Gwai Shangani Dam, which is currently under construction. We have also managed to raise resource and funding for energy and infrastructure, the expansion of Hwange, and also the Patoka Gorge, which is currently being implemented. So those, to me, are key developments that has shown the success Professor Mtuli and his team has managed to bring into our economy. And one other thing which was also arrested, Martha, is the fuel crisis. If you recall, we used to have a fuel crisis that was fueled by exchange rates, which were all over the place. But now the government, with the auction system they've introduced, we have parity now. You can now buy foreign currency through the banks at a controlled rate, which is what the market needs, not the black market rate, which was dictating the economy before. So all these things I actually think are big pluses to our government, that they've been able to stabilize our economy. So I actually think that the TSP, the Transition Stabilization Program, was a huge success, but now it has been taken over by the National Development Strategy 1, which is now consolidating all the successes of the TSP and putting them into practice. And on this note, I also want to reference to the diaspora that are listening on this program, that the diaspora, that if you read the National Development Strategy 1, it talks about engaging the diaspora constituency to be a key enabler of development. So I want to call upon now all the different diaspora organizations and associations that this is our time now to work hand in hand with our government as key enablers of development in our respective countries where we are. We have a duty to play and to support the development of our country through so many ways.
Okay, thank you so much. That actually a mouthful, of what is happening in Zimbabwe and so forth. I also saw a call for the diaspora policy for our people to contribute to the diaspora policy. I think it's now closed. It's been running for a month. I got it from the Zimbabwean ambassador to South Africa, Mr. Amatripi. It was circulating actually for diaspora to contribute to the policy. But I also do have some questions here, Bagore. I've been pushing actually for diaspora. I think you are aware of that, for our diaspora to get land back home.
Yeah.
Right? So we've been pushing for this. We collected forms. The reason why we're collecting forms here to actually send was that most of our diaspora people, because of where they are, there should be some sort of, special treatment in Yana, you see, where they are not asked to be on the ground if you want to apply for land. So I wrote letters to Basera's office, John Basera's office. That was in June, and I managed to get a response, and I did some follow-up, and I got a response on the 20th of October of what's happening. I'm just going to read it out, then I'll ask you a question after that. Yeah. So it said received, and I believe this came to us earlier. Yes, you can form the farm on Monday afternoon. All I need to say is the process of form completion was spelled out in a letter from the ministry circulated to embassies. Indeed, we got forms all over and relayed to provinces of choice for provinces to give waiting list numbers. There isn't free land to allocate right now, but we have to wait for the land audit to be done by the Land Commission. Land seen as vacant or abandoned or underutilized is then reallocated. Investors don't need to own land, but can do joint ventures with those with land. Land Commission is preparing the second phase of the land audit. Hopefully land will be available for allocation. We also will do urban agro-residential plots to be sold to locals and diaspora. When on stream, this will be publicized. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because the issue of sanctions is centered around land, right? And then we have seen a lot of diaspora people who've been making this call that we are not involved. There is a disconnect. Is there anything happening to try to link diaspora to home without being asked the so-called, there's always this sentence they like using, be on the ground, when we all know that it's not easy to be on the ground. Is there anything that is happening where our diaspora community can actually feel like, okay, at least there is something specifically for us that is set up?
Thank you very much, Martha, for bringing that to my attention. Let me start by saying that it's important for the diaspora not to be left in the land acquisition process back at home just because they live outside the country, so they cannot be entitled to land. So first of all, I will encourage all diasporans to apply for land, even though there's currently a land audit taking place. But the first thing to do is to apply for land. So there are two ways of doing it. You can either apply as an A1 or A2. A2, which is pretty much commercial or semi-commercial, and A1, which is just up to about 10 to 15 hectares, land just to put a homestead and do subsistence farming. So I encourage all the diasporas to apply. And unfortunately, at the moment, we are trying to engage with the Ministry of Agriculture so that the applications can be done online. But at the moment, the forms can be completed and you have to send someone on your behalf to send the application and apply. Once you have applied, it's important to get your reference number and keep it also. It's very important. What we have done here in the UK, which has worked very well, under the leadership of His Excellency Ambassador Katsande, when he came in 2018, we set up diaspora development clusters, which mirror the ministries in Zimbabwe. So I will speak specifically for our diaspora agriculture engagement cluster, which is led by Mr. Nera, Elder Nera. So what we did under the diaspora engagement cluster is that we invited all people that had applied for land, either as consortiums or as individuals, to send their reference numbers to us. And when we got the reference numbers, we then categorized them as province for province. And then the diaspora cluster head, Mr. Nera, then engaged the different provincial land officers. So he is now involved in having meetings with them and getting feedback on the outcome, the actually pre-awaited outcome of the land audit. So the respective land offices in the provinces have got the list of diaspora people that have applied for land in those respective provinces. So what we have done is to organize ourselves, put our information together, and then share it. So what happens now, under the agriculture engagement cluster group, all the people that are interested with land, those that have applied or those that are in the process of applying, they sit in one group, in one portal group. They're given feedback on the process. And I can assure you that I think 2 provinces or so have already written to us as the diaspora and advising us on the way forward. And I can tell you also that what Pemsek Basera said is very true. We are not going to have enough land for all Zimbabweans to own commercial farms. That's not going to be possible. We're not even going to have enough land for all of us to get A1 plots, But what government has also been saying is that it may be helpful for the different diaspora people with interest on land to partner together and form development consortium, so that you now come as a development consortium and you're looking at receiving an allocation of land where you can actually work as a group rather than as individuals. So that will also help, because land is in high demand in Zimbabwe. Remember, it's not about us, the diaspora alone. There are also people in Zimbabwe with capital that don't have land, that are looking for land. Farming has become very fashionable in Zimbabwe. I think agriculture is one of the most thriving business sectors in Zimbabwe as we speak right now. So my message is that the diaspora in the respective countries need to organize themselves. They have one portal of information, like, for example, in South Africa, if you are the one communicating with Pemsek Basera, you should then set up a group and give feedback to everyone so that information is shared consistently and everyone has access to information. And also, the other thing we can do, rather than wait for land to be allocated to us, is that we can also, as the diaspora, engage in contract farming, engage people that have land already, but don't have the resources. So we can partner with them and make sure that when you're doing your partnership, it's well structured and legally binding as well. I think under the Ministry of Agriculture, I've seen a structure for contract farming, which the government is now promoting, that you can actually enter into contract farming. Farming is commercial. So you can actually rent land and farm. I know people that are renting land and actually farming and actually making the most out of it. But I know that the ultimate objective is personally for us to have our own piece of land. But it's a process and it's not going to be an event. We also have to be patient and wait for the outcome of the Land Audit Commission when they gazette all the land that is going to be available. And I want to commend government for instituting this land audit and the land commission, that it's real. When people read about it, they think it's not real. It's actually taking place. We had land officers coming. My father has got a farm. So we had land officers coming to our farm to actually do review of what we were doing at our farm. It's a family farm. It's owned by my father. It's not my personal farm, but I have interest because I've been putting money to invest as well. And we are now in the process of upgrading our infrastructure as per the recommendation of the land officers, because they wanted the infrastructure to be in here. So this is a message to say that government are serious. This is not just a dress rehearsal. It's a serious thing. So if you're also listening to this program and you own a farm and you've not developed your farm, let me warn you to say that do as much as you can to put infrastructure, or otherwise it will be downsized, or eventually if you're not doing anything on that farm, government will take it away and give it to people that are in need.
Yeah, all right. Okay, thank you for making that clear. And those who are in the UK can actually connect with Comrade Marshall Gore, so that you can also be part of whatever is happening regarding the land issue. And others can actually contact your embassies wherever you are. I know it's a process, trust me, it's irritating. But when you want something, nothing is easy. Nothing is easy. You keep pushing, you keep going there. And I know that there are channels to follow. And everybody wants land. So you need to really be up, put your socks on and keep pushing. I see that Philip Swanda, you said you want to join in the conversation. I'm gonna open the line for anybody who wants to come in as a guest at 2:30. I just want to give Comrade Gore his time to actually unpack what is happening and what Diaspora is actually doing. You have done quite a lot of projects from the UK where you are developing back home, which is putting money in, which is something that I really comment on everyone who is doing something. Also, Philip Swander is one of those people who are running projects in Zim. He has a soccer team that is running in Zimbabwe. So I always comment the Diaspora for doing a lot. I have King Ajamu here. I've been working with him to collect sanitary pads for our girls in Zimbabwe. He's an African American who is based in the USA and is doing quite a lot. Never been to Africa, but he's playing his role as Diaspora. So what are other projects that you are running, whether in Zim or in South Africa or anywhere, as Diaspora, putting money? Because there is supporting Africa by commenting and saying things about what should be done in Africa. But what we actually say when we are talking about developing Africa, we're talking about putting your money in. So what are the projects that you are running and where you are putting your money?
Thank you, Martha.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to break down this from maybe a personal level, community level, and then from a business level. Let me start by saying that from a personal level, what I've done with the resource and the connections I've had in the diaspora. I came in this country in 1998. And I'm glad to say to you, after a lot of hard work and pushing and shoving, in 2002, I was able to bring electricity in my village.
Wow.
Remember, I was not able to build a house. I was able to bring electricity first in my village before I built my own house. How did I do this? I saved money for it. And at that time, the commercial farmers were still owning the bulk of the farms in Goromonzi. So I had to actually pay equivalent to £12,000 to bring electricity from a nearby Eton farm to my village in Goromonzi, Chikashe village. When we did this, it opened opportunities for other diaspora people that were also there to come and take electricity from us. As I speak with you now, following this development, the local primary school near my village, Uzu Primary School, they now have electricity at the school. And 2-3 weeks ago, I bought the first laptop for the admin block to be used in that primary school. So let me say this. If it had not been of me bringing electricity in my homestead, the primary school would not have been by now having electricity. The primary school now, because of electricity, can attract better teachers because they have better environment. No teacher wants to go and teach at a school where there's no electricity. So this is how we develop our area. And I have other people now that are doing thriving projects, some in the diaspora in America, that all came and benefited from the electrification in my village, which is now supporting a lot more people to expand projects and do a lot more infrastructure that they can. So firstly, we have a role as individuals to transform our communities where we come from. And I did not end there alone. I've also been involved in supporting development initiatives in my local community, supporting youth development with projects, supporting local grassroots community football teams, doing tournaments, bringing people together. And right now, I've also partnered with another organization called the African Healing Foundation. They're doing mental health promotion, and they're doing a lot more stuff, physical health promotion. They've set a community garden in my village right now, which is helping a lot of other villages around the place. Why? It's because of the connections. I met these guys here. They had a vision, an African vision. I introduced them to my home area, to my local chief. They went to Zimbabwe. They were happy with what they saw, and they decided to use us as a first test case. So this is again another example of how I've managed to use my diaspora position to influence development in my village. Secondly, let me also move on and say, now from a community point of view, I work with different organizations and community organizations. Most importantly, I'm also a member of the ruling party, and I work with the party also. And I also work with apolitical organizations. I'm the founder of Team Zimbabwe UK, a diaspora organization, a diaspora supporting organization. What has Team Zimbabwe UK done? Team Zimbabwe UK has played a pivotal role here in the UK in bringing Zimbabweans together to celebrate independence through sport, to celebrate heroes through sport, to support with developing community Zimbabwean football clubs for the racially marginalized population that is in here to have a sense of purpose and a sense of belonging to their community. Team Zimbabwe UK has held sporting awards where we have awarded our own legends and sporting icons and recognize them for the work that they are doing. It's none but ourselves we can make our community better. What has Team Zimbabwe UK done at national level? Team Zimbabwe UK has been involved through my support to hunt our diaspora football talent to go and represent our national teams at home. As I speak with you right now, Martha, through Team Zimbabwe UK, 6 players in the current Zimbabwe national team are from the UK diaspora. We engaged them, we sold Zimbabwe to them, they agreed, and now they're playing for our national team. Martha, our national team has, for the first time, qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations for the last 3 consecutive tournaments, including the one taking place in Cameroon in January 2020. Why? It's because we've integrated our football talent in the main national team. Who did it? It was us, the diaspora, as a third sector voluntary organization. We organized ourselves, funded the organization, went to these players. I traveled in 2017 with a headline story which was called in Zimbabwe, The Arrival of the British Brigade. When I arrived at Robert Mugabe International Airport with Nottingham Forest, Tendai Darikwa, Macaulay Bonne, now with Ipswich, formerly with QPR, Kundai Benyu, formerly of Celtic, Admiral Muskwe, formerly of Celtic, now with formerly of Leicester, now with Luton. I took these sporting players, put them in a plane, and took them home for the first time. And they were received very well. Now they are regular members of our team. Before I stop again, most of these players have already been involved in setting development initiatives back in the communities where their parents come from. So this is from Team Zimbabwe. And lastly, with the members of the party, ZANU-PF UK, we've also been able to mobilize a lot of resources. During Cyclone Idai, we raised almost close to £5,000 to send relief support to Zimbabwe. In 2020, when COVID came in, we raised money and actually made our donation at State House of goods worth 150,000 at State House, PPEs and a lot of other stuff. And also, as this continues, as we speak right now, we have COP26 happening here in the UK. We, as the diaspora, have organized various events to appreciate our government, appreciate our president, and these events are inclusive. They're not largely organized by the party, but they're including all the diasporas. And with also the other diaspora organizations that I support, a lot has been happening. But I've just given you a nutshell of how, as diasporans, we can impact. Let me summarize. First, we can impact in our family by making sure that our family have got a good home to live, good healthcare. We can then impact in our community by either drilling a borehole or bringing electricity that everyone else can benefit within our homestead or in the village. And then when we finish this, we can then go and do projects at provincial level. Then we can
have you lost me or have I lost him?
Right, I'm here, Martha. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you clearly.
Okay. Thank you so much for the job well done. I've been following what you are doing where sport is actually concerned, and thank you so much for that. Just looking at what you are doing, and I know that there is quite a lot of people who are doing that, but the disconnect that I mentioned earlier. Between diaspora and back home is also actually felt because of our political differences. The development of Africa by diaspora, where Zimbabwe is concerned, actually sometimes because of our political differences. Somebody will just sit and say, I cannot do it simply because the politics around everything. How are you able to work with people from other political parties without banging heads? I'm talking about the development of Zim.
Without a doubt, we have a healthcare diaspora association here that has been leading at the forefront of COVID, providing information. It's led by Dr. Chireka, who comes from a different political background with me. We work together and we support the initiative, the health development. I think what we need to do as the diaspora, we need to think beyond politics, Martha. Look at Israel, for example. Look at Israel. They have political parties, but their diaspora model has been able to transform their country into becoming a great nation, very small country. But they have their own internal politics. But the Israelis here, when they're looking at supporting Israel, they're not looking at the government as a political entity. They're looking at Israelis as people. So I actually think that here in the diaspora, sometimes we get so petty with politics. Politics is nothing. The agenda is development. When I do things in Zimbabwe, I don't do them specifically to help my political party. I do them specifically to help my country. Look at Nigeria. They've been able, irrespective of the different ethnic differences they have had, but they have a very good, successful diaspora story. I actually think that the value and knowledge that we have here in the diaspora, we should actually use it to educate people back at home, to say that we should think as Zimbabweans first before we can think as ZANU-PF or as MDC or whatever political party is. Let me make it very clear, Martha. What is important is the fate of Zimbabweans, not the fate of our political parties. If at all, political parties are there to save the nation. They want to be in government so that they can look after the country. So there's no price to gain to politicize government. Government belongs to the people. So the government is accountable to them. And I think the president, over the last 3 years, has been preaching on peace. And when he came into power in 2017, he made a pledge that he was going to be a president to all. And up to this day, I agree with him, because the road infrastructure that is being developed today is not benefiting ZANU-PF people. It's benefiting Zimbabweans from MDC and from all the other different political formations. So I think people that narrow development or help to say it has to be linked with political, they're outdated. Let me make it very clear. And if you are in ZANU-PF or in MDC, if you actually think that you cannot help Zimbabwe because there is a government that you don't agree or whatever it is, that is wrong. That's actually a bad mindset. Look at the countries we live in here. People support their communities and develop them. It's never about politics. It's about people. So I want to encourage all diasporans that one other thing, Martha, that I want to drive home also is that we need to learn to unite as the diaspora if we are going to be successful. Look at Ethiopia. They've been able to raise development bonds for their country. They created a lot of crowdfunding for the diaspora. The infrastructure in Ethiopia right now has been developed by the diaspora of Ethiopia. But when they do this, they don't ask you for a political card. So let me make it very clear also that let's mature beyond politics and work as Zimbabweans. Above all, what brings us together, the Zimbabweanness that is in us, is what is more important than our political parties. And to use political parties as an excuse or as a narrative to prohibit supporting your country is actually not a good thing to do. So I want to encourage us to think beyond the boundaries of politics. I'll give you a very good example as well, Martha. Look at India. The transformation of the healthcare service is as a result of the diaspora. The Indians that left the country have invested in the healthcare that is in India right now, which is promoting the country under health tourism, where people go to India for treatments. Those clinics are owned by the diaspora. Why? It's because those diaspora saw opportunities in the countries they were living, that they were dilapidated health systems. So they went into their country and invested into their health care. So I want to encourage all Zimbabweans to think above politics and focus on the development. When I put in electricity in my village, Martha, I did not put electricity for any particular. I put electricity in my village for the Zimbabweans, the people that live in my village, everyone, the children that go to the school where I've electrified, they're all Zimbabweans. It's got nothing to do with politics, So I just hope I've helped someone to think above politics. Let's never allow politics to divide us. The biggest mistake we can make as a nation is to allow politics to divide us. If we allow politics to divide us, we are not going to make progress. Look at the progress that is happening around us in other countries. Let's work together and support the development of our country. Let's never use political excuses to isolate or to extinct development or to say we need our preferred figureheads in politics in order to support it. If you care, if one cares for Zimbabwe, you will always support development of Zimbabweans. And if after all, when you drill a borehole in Dotito, it's not President Mnangagwa who's going to drink that water, it's the people of Dotito. Actually, when you do that, you actually earn better political accolades when you help people with inclusive politics. Let's focus on inclusivity as Zimbabweans.
Oh, that's right. I really love that. And thank you for giving examples of other countries that are actually doing good without politicizing development. Because it actually feels like us as Zimbabweans, when it comes to development of our country, we go all political when it comes to things of our country, but everybody else is coming together. A very good example is South Africa itself. Somebody can be from EFF, somebody can be from ANC, somebody can be from DA, but when it comes to being proudly South African, they come together, man. I've seen this happening. They engage, they develop their country. When there is something they need to stand against, they forget their political parties. So this is actually a good call.
And Martha, yes. Let me also make this clear to add what you've said. If you look at the mechanization of our government right now, of our cabinet, look at permanent secretaries that the president is appointed. Most of the permanent secretaries that have been appointed by the president did not hold ZANU-PF cards. And let me make it very clear. Professor Mtuli, our finance minister, was not a ZANU-PF card holding member, but he was made finance minister. Why? Because the president is thinking above politics. And this is the politics we want. You've spoken about John Basera, who's the permanent secretary of agriculture. He was taken from SIDCO, from the private sector. It was never about your political credentials. It was about to do with, are you good enough to be able to turn around your country? This is what the new dispensation is representing in Zimbabwe. We may have our differences or anything else, but I want to make it very clear that the president, Comrade Emmerson Mnangagwa, has been very clear on putting the development agenda first. That if you are talented, then you are given the job. Look at how many opposition members have actually been posted to become ambassadors abroad. Why? It's not about politics. It's about what is good about Zimbabwe. This is the politics of the new dispensation. And if people cannot learn from what the president has done, I don't think there's always going to be another great opportunity of learning that a president can appoint members of the opposition who represent the opposition party to actually go and serve and be diplomats in countries. It's about Zimbabwe. So once we're in government, let's think about Zimbabwe. And to my colleagues in the party who actually think that the government should do everything that we want from the party, you are wrong. Let's focus on inclusive development. National affairs are for the country. We are there to lead people that don't like us and people that like us together. So the people that did not vote for us, we have a duty and a mandate to lead them and to serve them with servant leadership. And this is what the president has said, and we will continue to support this development agenda. So even if you are from the ruling party and you don't tolerate other Zimbabweans, then I'm afraid to say, comrade, that we differ on that front, because I'm speaking here as a diaspora community leader, and I work with different organizations and with people from other different political parties. We sit together to think and support the agenda of developing Zimbabwe. Politics, we've put it aside. After elections, politics should be thrown into the bin. Let's focus on developing the country inclusively together. We are limitless together, Martha.
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much. And I know that there's quite a number of people who were taken from diaspora to go and serve back home because of their work that they've done in the diaspora, the experience and the skills they got, and they're actually serving within the country. So we really appreciate the work done by diaspora and everything. I have a question here, or it's rather a comment from Joseph. We're saying, but those people who want to vet you before you donate or anything in our areas. I know what he's talking about. We had an issue in Berengwa where a guy wanted to donate hospital beds and mattresses at a clinic. So he just went straight and donated at the clinic, and the MP actually came and threw the whole beds and mattresses away. And another second case, it's a guy that I know. He actually gave up. I've been trying to get hold of him for him to donate again, but he said, nah, it's no longer for me. He went to Matabeleland to donate at a clinic, and he was referred to go to Harare, said go and speak to someone to Harare before you can donate. I do not know how this works or whether it's part of our system or it's just some people in those areas trying to play politics, because these people actually gave up donating because of that. How does it work when you want to donate back home, and where should they go? What should they do? Should it be that difficult or?
No, Mother, the rules of engagement in any business, the rules of engagement in any organization, the rules of engagement in anything that you do. Even if you're in your own house, no one can just come and open the door and throw things and say, I've come to donate food for you when you don't know where it is coming from. So government has a duty and mandate to ensure that when donations are coming into government, they follow the process and protocol. Even myself, when I want to donate things to government, I'll tell you, let me give you a very good example. During COVID last year, I donated food relief to my community in Goromonza. I donated 400 bags of mealie meal to 400 families in my constituency in Goromonza. How did I do it? This is what I want you to know. I wrote to the rural district administrator, and I wrote to the local chief and informed them of my desire and initiative. And I also wrote to the government minister, resident minister in Mashonaland East Province, to advise them that this is what I wanted to do. I'm donating to the community. So I said, here is what I want to do. I want to donate, and I'm informing you of the custodians. They said, fine. They then contacted the local councillors and the local key stakeholders to group people together and identify the families that could actually benefit from my donation. So this also helps for accountability sake, and this also helps to manage abuse. So when eventually I bought the mealie meal and it came, everyone that is in the area, from the rural district administrator, from the local councillor, from even the MP, and everyone was fully aware of the program. And the program has been well publicized for people to understand it. So there is a process in doing everything. Anywhere you go, there is a process. You cannot just yes, clinics do need to be resources. But when you want to resource a clinic, you write to the Minister of Health and say who you are, where is your donation coming from. This is done for accountability purposes, to actually assess that the equipment that is coming is genuine, it's authentic. So countries have rules of engagement when they are running. You don't just do free for all things. Even myself, I'm telling you this. Yes, I'm a member of the ruling party, but I have to follow protocol. I can't just bring people together and say I'm giving you food without informing the local key stakeholders. It doesn't work like that. So people need to follow process and get in touch with the relevant department. If you are going to donate healthcare equipment, you need to write to the Minister of Health. They need to check the equipment that is coming, that it's fit for purpose. If you're going to donate to sports, you need to write to Sports and Recreation Commission, alert the Minister of Sports and say you want to donate equipment so that they can identify those in need. So I actually think that it's unfortunate that people have felt that they've been put off by this, but actually it's actually a safety network that in any country you go, you cannot just access the community and start giving people without the local key stakeholders happy. Even here in the UK or in South Africa, you can't just go into communities and bring people together and just start doing things just because you have resources, you can do everything. No, you have to follow.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's true. That's true. That's true. I've written letters wherever I want to visit a school
Exactly.
or
That's
want
the
to visit a community for donations. We actually get in touch with the local communities. Even just go to the police station and tell them what you want to do. Somebody needs to know, just in case someone dies from whatever you brought in the country or in the
Exactly.
community. There is
Exactly.
some sort of
So it's not a put off, it's a process that they need to follow. And I'm happy for people that want to engage with me. And if you are in the diaspora as well, it also helps. The reason why you have your embassy in your respective countries is to support you If you want to donate things, contact your embassy. They'll do a letter for you so that ZIMRA, if it's for charity, ZIMRA can then do exemptions for tax for you. But you have to prove that this is going for charity. The organization at home who's receiving the goods, they have to write to you as well and say, we are the ones that are receiving. You take all the letters to an embassy, the ambassador or people responsible will support you to write a letter to the respective ministers. This is protocol. And it's not about Zimbabwe alone. In many countries, you have to go through these formal processes. It's not a put-off, but it's just how things work.
Okay. No, that's lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And to add to that as well, if you are in diaspora and you want to donate things back home, connect with your embassy or your consulate. In that way, it will help you to get a duty-free certificate. I've assisted during the cyclone Idai to get the duty-free certificates. So it simply means you are exempted from paying duty at the border when the things that you are donating are going to for charitable giving. You get a certificate straight from the consulate, and then you, when you are at the border, you don't pay any duty for the donated things. As long as it's for donation, you get a duty-free certificate. You don't have to pay duty. So yeah, that's more like it. And thank you for asking the question, Joseph, because it's actually helping us. Even though he's feeling that the process has been politicized, and that's how they block other political parties from donating because they want to gain mileage. I wish Philip could join in. I'm waiting for him. Philip, if you are listening and watching, I wish you could join in because
Mother,
the reason, yes.
Whilst we're waiting for Philip to join in, I just wanted to interject a little bit so that I can clearly outline the roles that the diaspora can play in development. If you may allow me just 2 minutes to clearly outline some of the key areas. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah. The reason why I was mentioning Philip is because he's somebody who's been donating back home, and he's not ZANU-PF. So, so he's been doing quite a lot. So I wanted to hear how he's doing it so that he can.
I work with
him.
I work with him here in the UK. We're very close in terms of our community development initiative. I look forward to joining us.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You can proceed. I think it's been a
thank you for giving me this time. Yeah, I just felt it's important because I've seen that there are a lot of people representing diaspora collaboration groups and foundations here. I think the key specific areas that I wanted to harness to put to people's attention in terms of how the diaspora can actually support development at home. Firstly, I think most importantly, from an investment point of view, we can support development by sourcing investment from investors or by actually becoming ourselves the investors. We have the capacity, we have assets here in the diaspora. We can leverage them to unlock development finance. So we can come into groups, into consortiums, raise funding, and then take that funding to go and invest in our own homes. So let's also not focus reliantly on convincing the investors to go to Zimbabwe. We can be the investors if we come together, set up a diaspora bond, invite local people, 1,000 or so, to each put 10,000 in. We can raise development finance, which can transform our own countries. So let's not limit ourselves to the big city investors. We can become the source of investment by using crowdfunding as Zimbabweans or as South Africans or as Tanzanians. We can do that and use crowdfunding, or we can talk to the government. They can initiate a diaspora bond. We can buy into it and then develop our new cities. We can do that. We can leverage and do that. And secondly, also, it's important that not everyone can be a business person. We have a lot of diasporans that are not into business, but that are sitting in highly influential positions, that are working in government departments, that have knowledge and skills and resources to understand and support our local government. So those of our brothers that have studied to the highest with the PhDs, they can actually set up consortiums or consultancies that advise our government in housing, that advise our government in modernizing our cities. So as the diaspora, we can use our skills, we can utilize our skills and expertise in consulting on behalf of our government. We can choose to do it for free if we want, or we can choose to make it paid consultants, so that we actually go to the various ministries where there are deficiencies of knowledge and pitch to them and say, you know what, this is how best you can remodernize your road infrastructure. This is how best you can remodernize your education curriculum using the skills and the expertise of those brothers in education. So that's also another way of how we can impact to develop in our home countries by using our skills and knowledge to put them together. The other thing also is that the exposure we have gained, Martha, from being in countries abroad should make us aware of the geopolitical standing. So as Zimbabweans here, we are aware, we should also use the knowledge that we have to understand where our country is disadvantaged in terms of bilateral, multilateral arrangements. So many times our government enter into agreements that disadvantage us. So it's also our duty and responsibility as the diaspora here to actually advise on our government on some of the unfair systems that are here that were initiated to strive for our countries. So we should not just be here and say everything that comes from the West is good, but we should challenge the modalities and educate our fellow colleagues at home that this is not advantageous to us, it's a disadvantage to us. So we can support our government with information and internal knowledge to negotiate on deals so that we are not disadvantaged. Right now, we talk about China's influence in taking over investments and land in all the African countries. Why? It's because us, the diaspora, we've not been at the forefront of supporting our governments to structure deals. China has. China calls for conferences and brings our heads of state and tells them how to do business. We as the diaspora should have that initiative of calling a diaspora conference where we address our heads of state and tell them the hidden bits in why we think China is not offering a good deal, why we think the West are not offering a good. So it's our duty and responsibility. We have dined with the king, so we know we can send. We know what's happening. So we should smell the coffee and not just sit and criticize and say, they're being used by China. But what have we done? So we should have a diaspora conference where we bring all the heads of states, engage with AU, and take a lead in advising our government. How many of we are in the diaspora right now? If I'm talking of the European of diaspora from an African point of view, we're talking of about 5 to 6 million Africans in Europe, from Nigeria, from Ghana. And if we include America, we're a huge country as a diaspora. So we should stop looking at the diaspora as a small community. There are millions of us, very influential position. Some of us own banks. We've got the Dangotes, the Strive Masiwas, the key pillars of the economy is here. So let's harness that experience and use it to support our government. So what am I saying? I'm actually saying that we can manage projects for our governments. We can come in and give political advice to our governments where they're going into treaties and being disadvantaged. We are the cog that should stand and inform our governments, write concept papers that challenge the mantra to say that investment comes from Europe. We can raise investment here as the desk, but our governments need to trust us as well. At the moment, our government will not trust a diaspora consortium. They will trust a European consortium full of European business people who will disadvantage them. None of them will invest or even build a house at home from the profits they'll get in huge mining deals. But we are there. Imagine if I get anything lucrative, I'll build a stadium in Goromonzi, in Rusike Goromonzi. So if I become, so this is where we are missing the point also, that as the diaspora, we need to unite. Once we unite and speak with one voice, then we can challenge government. I'm glad you've spoken of the diaspora policy, and I'm glad of people that have been involved in ensuring I made my contribution. And my submission was that we need to strengthen the engagement between government and the diaspora. Why? Because that engagement is weak at the moment. And when it's weak, the Western business people, the Eastern business people are capitalizing on, they're taking advantage of our place, So I actually think we as the diaspora are also important in building networks that give sustainability to our home countries. We should be involved in every sector of economy. When the government is about to invest or take investment from it, they should consult with us. Some of us actually work in those governments. We've got Zimbabweans that work closely within the South African government. We have Zimbabweans here that work at 10 Downing Street. Let's harness their knowledge and resource and talk to them and use them to analyze. We have people working at KPMG. We have people at Ernst & Young that are structuring the deals that are coming to disadvantage here. They should be sitting on our government side going in those negotiation meetings. So this is the power that we have. We should leverage on it. We should stop criticizing on each other. One of the biggest hindrances, Martha, to us as the diaspora is that we knock each other down. When we see someone knock each other, we actually think this is the problem. We should take that mindset and work together. If we can bring our small capitals together, if the people in one village can bring their small South African rands together. I've actually seen in my village when there's a funeral right now, we have a separate group for the diaspora in South Africa. They make huge donations that are supporting the village. They do it when people have died. So why can't we do it now
when we are still living?
To develop at village level. This is what we need to do. And one other thing, Martha, before I stop, I know I've been talking too much. Let me give you a chance. One other thing which we must also do as the diaspora, when we go back home to work with our local institutions and our local people, we should also respect them. This idea of saying that because you've been to the diaspora, you know better than everyone that is at home should go. Let's humble ourselves, learn from the people at home. There's certain things that we do not understand that they know. So when we go, we should not become the have-been-tos who know it all. When we do that, it's at the detriment of our own progress. This is why you find you've got some brothers that have gone to Zim to try and do business, and after 3-4 years, they've come back to say, I can't go there, I can't work, because the environment is different. You need local support. So we also need to learn to humble ourselves when we go back home and work with those people with their limited knowledge. There's something that they know that we don't know. So it's important for us to humble ourselves also and be submissive, and at the same time engage and listen also and be respectful to our home countries when we go back to engage with. I just felt that this is an important point that I needed to put across.
Wow. Thank you so much, Comrade Marshall Gore. You are indeed a community leader and you are really doing quite a lot. Thank you so much for taking time to come and unpack everything that you are doing and the advices that you are giving to anybody who wants to see the development of Africa. I love the point that you made that, looking at Africa diaspora all over the world, we are so many. We have the experience and we can advise our governments. Look at us when we go out there and get loans, IMF, our governments go get loans. They are not really negotiating using our African GDP, but they are negotiating using Zimbabwe is going on its own, Zambia is going on its own, Kenya is going on its own. It's disadvantage us. And repaying those, it takes generations and generations. And we can actually negotiate using our own resources, using our own human resources that is all over the world. We can negotiate using anything, but we are not doing that. Our leaders sometimes are put under a lot of unnecessary pressure, and they end up doing what they think is best for us when we can actually do much better in advising them. Unfortunately, Philip is not going to be joining us. He's saying, sorry, Matarenda, I have left going to football match, United versus Liverpool. Sorry, please greet my brother Marshall. Tell him I love him so much. That's from Philip's Swanda here.
I'm actually in Liverpool, and hopefully I'll see him there. I'm going to attend the game. I'm actually in Liverpool, Martha, to also attend that game as well.
I think Philip is United from what I've gathered. Philip, confirm, are you United?
I'm Chelsea, but I've been invited by a good friend who is hosting me today. So I'll be
okay. All right. Okay. I think you're going to be seeing him there. And there is a comment from Brother Ajamu here. Respect Comrade Brother Marshall. There are non-Zims who can also contribute to economic development and collaboration. Yes, and I think that's also something that I was also making earlier, that those who are non-Zimbabweans can actually contribute to the development of Zim or any other African country, by the way. You don't have to be limited to being...
Actually, Martha, I agree with Brother Jam with what he's saying. If you look at Ghana, I think in 2017 or 18, they offered investment visas for our brothers and colleagues from the African and Caribbean community to actually come, that if you wanted to go back and invest in Ghana, if you're an Afro-Caribbean, they were offering incentives for them to go and invest. There's nothing that can stop us as Zimbabwean to do a lot. The support, symbiotic support we have received as the Zimbabwe diaspora community from our fellow African Caribbean brothers here has been resounding. We work very closely with another organization of Afro-Caribbeans called Starlight Global. They every year they take Black, African, and American UK tourists to Zimbabwe. I think, but before COVID, they were doing 3 to 4 trips of about 60 people going on trips for the first time, promoting Zimbabwean tourism. So my brother here is absolutely correct and right to say that we need to think beyond the national emblem when we are talking of the diaspora. The diaspora also includes our Black African brothers that are here in the UK. From a football perspective, I had a meeting a few months ago with Emil Husky, who's a former international here. But what were we doing? We're looking at how Emil, I was telling Emil the opportunities that are in Zimbabwean sport, that we can harness his capacity he has and the capital he has to go and develop in sporting infrastructure in Zimbabwe. So my brother is right. We should not limit ourselves to collaborate with Zimbabweans, but we should extend the engagement and collaboration beyond to the other diaspora. There's nothing that can stop me as a Zimbabwean to invest in South Africa. As I'm speaking to you right now, I'm a Zimbabwean, but I have invested in a company in South Africa, and why? It's because my business partner is from South Africa, and we met in the diaspora environment, and he convinced me that it was the right investment for me, and I've invested in. We're doing corporate social responsibility in Marathon near Joburg. We do that collectively together. We've built fundamental structures. So when I go to Africa, I go to Africa via Joburg because I have to fulfill my obligations again. And when I'm in South Africa, I don't see myself as if I'm in South Africa. I see myself as if I'm home in Africa, which is Africa that we want, a one united force of Africa that we want. So yes, to all the brothers from the Afro-Caribbean community listening to this show, I want to say clearly, you're very welcome to work with us, to engage with us. And we as Zimbabweans are very open in working with you to take you back to Zimbabwe and let you play a part in investing in every sector that you want to invest.
Okay, you mentioned Ghana issuing visas and incentives. Is there something in the pipeline for Zimbabwe to actually say the Africa diaspora who wants to come back home and do something can also get, a piece of that? I saw the message that I just read from the director of Lands, who said the diaspora wants to invest back, can actually partner with locals and so forth. Let's just say this is a brother who is in the United States, an African American, who wants to come to Zimbabwe and do the home that side or invest at home in Zim. What is waiting for them? Any visas, any permanent residence, and anything of that sort?
I think for me, obviously, these issues are also very constitutional in terms of leveraging. But Ghana, I think their parliament passed it, and they declared the year of the diaspora. I think 2017 or 2018, which they said this is the theme. The national theme was year of the diaspora. So they were inviting everyone with roots to come back into the country and being issued a Ghanaian passport and naturalizing, include those that have been in the African Caribbean community. I actually think in Zimbabwe, we can do something similar. Maybe we can start with engaging. Remember, we are the jewel of, we are the gateway of tourism in Southern Africa. We are the gateway to Southern Africa anyway. You cannot visit Southern Africa without passing through Victoria Falls. So for example, we could come up with a scheme where we can encourage the Afro-Caribbean sporting icons. I'm talking about the Usain Bolts and everything, and target them to actually say, listen, we're inviting you to come and invest in our country, or we're giving you land to build your own holiday villa in here. So we know that the more they're going to come and spend time in the country, they'll fall in love with the country. They'll end up investing in the country. So this could be another way we can use to say, you know what, we're offering a special promotion for the elite, because remember, we have an obligation to sell brand risk. Part of the re-engagement agenda is to reclean our image, which had been damaged over the previous years, to sanitize it and make it look great. And I think as a government, we've done very well, and credit to the Minister of Tourism, credit to ZTA with all the different initiatives they're bringing. But I just think that we can focus on, especially I have a lot of passion for sports tourism. I think we can do a lot to even harness the English Premier League teams to come to Zimbabwe, or invite the major sporting icons to actually come and give them special dispensation to come and invest in the country. We can start with that. I actually think if we do that with Victoria Falls, it's a very good place which we can use to bring this in. I think if it's done in such a way, we need to be careful, obviously, that we don't want to contaminate or give what I would call extra special privilege to people. But I think we must also accept that we have to make some sacrifices if our re-engagement is going to be wholeheartedly successful. And I think Ghana did the right way. The response was overwhelming. A lot of the successful African Caribbean visitors took advantages of it, went to Ghana, invested, and they had Ghanaian passport, and they're still frequent to Ghana. So I think we can do that in Zimbabwe, but we can do it in a slightly different way because our cultures are different and our setup and our development models are different. But I actually think we need to do something to attract those major sporting Afro-Caribbean icons to connect with the likes of Lennox, Lewis, to connect with the country, invite them, let them come in and have some part to play in the country. That's what we need. We need to open up a little bit. And I think with ZIDA, this is something that we can do, which can be very much formidable, Martha.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I was actually reading what ADI, that's African Diaspora Development Institute, which is actually hosting something in Ghana next year. This is inviting the diaspora community to come and build a smart city in Ghana. So it's actually, there's quite a lot of movement that is happening since Ghana opened that to Africa diaspora. And if we also look at that and do it in Zim, in South Africa, anywhere in Africa, I do believe that the diaspora community is more than ready and willing. The other issue that we have, a problem that we actually have as Africans, is that we are not selling the positive side of Africa enough to Africa diaspora. For instance, our African American brothers or the UK, any black people who have never been to Africa, they see the negative side of Africa all over. They see flies, they see diseases. What are we doing as Africa to sell the good side of Africa? When you talk of Zimbabwe, there's the Victoria Falls, the Chinhoe Caves, the Great Zimbabwe, which I love so much from Masvingo. But what we see, when we talk about Zimbabwe, we see a skinny policeman, sorry to say skinny, beating up a civilian. Those kind of things is what is being shared around the globe. That's what they see. They Google Zimbabwe. What they see is poor kids in, you know those kind of things. We don't have our media sharing the good stories of Zimbabwe. We don't have our people letting the world know the tourist destinations. We don't talk about the crime in Zimbabwe, that it's near zero, that you will never get attacked or your cell phone taken when you're a tourist in Zim. We don't get such stories. All we hear is about something else. So how do we make our Africa diaspora be interested in Zimbabwe or in Africa without seeing the flies and the diseases?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Martha. That's actually a very valid point you've brought to this discussion. Let me start by saying, you cannot love someone if you cannot love yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you cannot love yourself, you'll never be able to give love to anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need to do first, like I've said, we need to start believing in ourselves. We need to start appreciating ourselves. When you appreciate yourself as a Zimbabwean, then you appreciate Zimbabwe as your country. So
that's
at the moment we have people and that have bought into the narrative of the hate agenda. That narrative is obviously, you see, we have the remnants of colonialism. When Africa became liberated, the mindset of colonialism stayed. The mindset of colonialism was that we should never allow locals to have self-worth. We should never allow the local indigenous people to believe in themselves. So unfortunately, even 42 years after independence, us as Zimbabwe, we still have other Zimbabweans who don't believe in other Zimbabweans. We still have other Zimbabweans who don't believe that Martha can actually become a journalist who can sell Zimbabwean story. We believe our stories when it's being told by maybe Caucasian people. We believe our stories when it's being told by different people. So what we need to do, either as diasporans or people that are back at home, we first need to connect with our love. We need to have a mindset of self-worth, to look at ourselves and say, we are the real deal. We are the people in charge. And we need to support each other. What happens is that when you don't support each other, then we denigrate our country. There are people in the diaspora that actually think that by talking down their country, by talking down about Zimbabwe, they're actually doing a favor to the people that are listening from a different country. But you're not. When you talk down upon your country, you're actually exposing yourself. Because whatever happens, even this is why you find out that even when we are in the diaspora here, like for example, I work with British heavyweight boxing, former British heavyweight boxing, Derek Chisora. He's a Zimbabwean British boxing champion. He was born in Zimbabwe, and he's a British heavyweight boxer. When Derek wins a fight, they classify him that British heavyweight Chisora has won a fight. When Derek loses a fight, they classify him that Zimbabwean boxer has lost a fight. So this is what they do. So, but to those people that think by mis-selling their country to Western people, they're making them happy. They're not. They're exposing themselves. And let me also say, without blaming ordinary people, also I want to say this, Martha. Our governments also needs to start trusting us, because I think some of the friction between the diaspora and the home country emanates from people thinking that governments do not also trust them. So they actually think by leaving the country, the migration for development doesn't work. We're economic refugees, our government has neglected us. No, that's not the point. But what I want to say is that governments also needs to make an effort to respect and engage the diaspora. Because when people feel self-worthy and that their government respects them, that also helps to address that mindset that people might have. As we speak right now, Martha, Africa as a collective, African governments spend 7 billion on expatriate support and contracts. So which means that actually shows that we're giving 7 billion to expatriate companies. And if you clearly analyze those expatriate companies, they don't have Africa at heart. But it's high time also African governments should trust the Martha Matarenda's company to say, you know what, come and advise us on media. Come and do for us. Come and clean the images that on internet, that when you click Zimbabwe, you see violent protest and everything. We need to engage our people, that do, the white hacking and everything. We have a lot of guys in ITC technology who are gurus here. Our government needs to engage them to help to clean up that image. If you type about Britain or UK and America, you don't see, what you see is good images about those countries. They also have invested a lot in their perception from a media point of view. So I want to say that without being too much biased to say that the problem is with us, the diaspora, but I want to say that love is on both ways. Our government needs to also engage us and show love. And with Zimbabwe, I'm very happy and impressed that in the last 2 years, we've seen a lot more engagement of the diaspora, making people much more valid. And then this is what also triggers the love, that people give back love when they're given back love. But I want to say we must work hard to restore the trust between the diaspora and the home country. The attitude sometimes when people leave the country. Remember, Martha, we all left the country under very difficult circumstances. Other people left the country because of economic hardship. And this is not a Zimbabwe case alone. This is a very common phenomenon. Migration has been there for years. When we were in Zimbabwe, when we were young, we saw migration of Mozambicans coming into Zimbabwe. And we also saw Malawians coming into Zimbabwe in the 1960s. They came into Zimbabwe. And it was not new. During apartheid, we saw also a lot of South Africans coming into Zimbabwe. So migration has always been a phenomenon that has always been there.
In Egypt.
Yeah. But then it's how do we deal with our challenges? I don't think actually, even if there's something that my government is not doing right, I don't actually thinking that going on Sky TV and exposing my government would make me a better citizen. So I think irrespective of the challenges we have, we should always uphold our self-worthy. Our self-worthy as individuals, our self-worthy as citizens, as Zimbabweans, that no matter it rain or thunder or there's drought, we are Zimbabweans. So we have a duty and a responsibility to also protect the image and the integrity of our country. And when we do this, we derive more than harm. Speaking upon
That's true.
one's country will not give you a duty or a badge of honor. You're doing a disservice.
That's
So I'm
right.
calling
That's
upon
right.
all the diaspora, and that despite the challenges we face as countries, let's remain patriotic to our countries, and let's also own our narrative, which is my last point on what you have said. Let's learn to tell our stories. We have relied a lot more on the Western media to speak on our stories. It's high time that those of you that are in the media, let's engage and tell our stories. Those that can write, let them write the good books, about the unique things about us. We have a unique culture. We have a unique work ethic, irrespective of the challenges we have had. We have a unique culture, unique setup. We have excelled also even here in the foreign countries. We have a lot of key achievements that we have achieved as people. We need to speak about that and showcase them rather than focus on the negative in our country. I'm not saying we are perfect as countries. Yes, we have our own issues, but why should we need to put need to put our weaknesses beyond everyone else? No, it should be our prayer that let our weaknesses be our strength, so that we get the opportunity to talk about our strength in our day-to-day lives, Mother.
Okay, thank you so much. Wow, it's been a very great 1 hour, almost 2 hours. We are only left with a minute to go off air. Thank you so much. This is Comrade Marshall Gore, who is a diaspora leader based in the UK. We have done quite a lot in Zimbabwe and have projects that are running in South Africa as well. Like what Tabitha is saying, if you didn't watch this interview, we have missed out on a change. We'll never learn. This was very informative and educating. Let's love our country and appreciate our beautiful Africa and beautiful Zimbabwe. And she is also calling for Comrade Marshall Gore to be back on air anytime soon. She really wants to learn a lot. And I know Tabitha is one of the United Africa organization, which is based in South Africa. So she's doing quite a lot in charity work, in the development of Africa. So she is somebody who is more than willing to learn, more than willing to engage, and we can all do more. And King Ajamo, thank you so much for tuning in. I know you're interested in Africa and how much you want to play your role. Paul Kumalo, thank you so much. This discussion has given me a different thought about our country. Thank you so much, Brother Marshall Gore. And this is me going off air. Thank you so much, Comrade. We'll
Mother,
come back.
Mother,
Yes.
if you can just allow me to say a few words before we end.
Oh, yes, in the next 30 seconds.
Yeah. First thing I want to do is to thank you for hosting me on this show. This has been a pleasure. I really appreciate to all the team at Radio 54, General Knight, and everyone. I'm so glad to be on this show. And my last words to my diaspora brothers and sisters listening to this show, my last words are that the Bible says, to whom much is given, much is required. So on this Sunday, I want to tell you that God has put you in a position of advantage, so that you help those in position of disadvantage. So you've been given access to travel abroad and have access to foreign currency. Please, let's think about people at home that do not have the opportunities that we have. Let's use the little we have. If we are faithful with the little that we have, as the Bible says, it can do more. And the only thing to be faithful with the little that we have is to invest it in others, is to support others so that they can do better. Let's go back to our village and make a difference. When we start making a difference, God will bless us in abundance, and we can together conquer. And let's continue to love each other. Let's come together, work together. Let's work together. Let's pray together. Let's walk this journey together. Our challenges are not different to what the Europeans or everyone that is in these lovely countries we live. They've been through the same journey that we are walking. Let's not lose heart. We are here for a purpose. Let's harness what is good and take it back to support our countries. We are the future leaders of tomorrow. Let me say it clearly, that we are the future leaders of tomorrow. And let's take what works for us and let's take it back. What does not work for us, let's leave it here. Let's take what is good and take it back home. And let's continue to work together, in unity together. We can make progress. Together, we are limitless.
Wow. Thank you so much. I'm going to invite you back anytime soon. We'll
Thank you.
talk over the phone. And thank you so much for the great words. And thank you so much to Radio 54 African Panorama for this chance for us to have this discussion. Till we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you so much. God bless.